Minute to order. Mr. Clerk, please read the roll.
Barnett, Barrett, Blackman, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Branning, Bryan, Butler to 36, Butler to 38, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, England, Fillingame, Frazier, Harkins, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Horn, Jackson, Johnson, Jordan, Kirby, McCon, McDaniel, McLendon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Norwood, Parker, Parks, Pope, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sojourner, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thomas, Thompson, Turner, Ford, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger. Mr. President, a quorum is present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you. Would y'all please rise for the presentation by Reverend Edgar Lewis and the Pledge of Allegiance by Senator Kelvin Butler. Reverend Lewis.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we're thankful for this day that you've given us. We pray, Lord, for this body here today, the Senate body, and I just ask you, Lord, that you would govern them and according to their wisdom and their knowledge, Lord, in handling the businesses that are at hand. I pray, God, that you would use each senator today, Lord, in a mighty way, Lord, that they can get the task that's before them done. I pray, God, that you would keep them safe and keep them private, Lord, that they might live and continue to live and serve in this body. We thank you for us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Can you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Governor.
Now the reading of the journal. Senator Polk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate dispense with the reading of the journal.
Senator moves to dispense with the reading of the journal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Message and petitions, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, there are none.
Committee reports. Senator Polk, you're recognized.
Mr. President, I move the Senate dispense with the reading of the committee reports.
Senator moves to dispense with the reading of the committee reports. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Reading of titles, bills, and resolutions. Senator Polk, you're recognized.
Mr. President, I move the Senate dispense with the reading of the titles of bills and resolutions.
Thank you. Senator moves to dispense with the reading of the titles, bills, and resolutions. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Introduction of guests. Introduction of guests. Senator Jordan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'd like to introduce the doctor for the day from the great city of Chula, Mississippi, Dr. Michael Matisa, over to the right. Matisa, please welcome him to the State Senate. Dr. Matisa.
Thank you. Senator Kirby, you're recognized for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'm pleased to announce today that we have Mason Peavy, who is the son of Donna Peavy, that works for the Senate and the Lieutenant Governor's office. And we're honored to have Mason here today. Mason, if you would please stand and let your Senate make you welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for your mom. Senator Wiggins, you're recognized for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the gallery, we have here with the Counselors Association, we have Melissa Wyndham, a former Pascagoulayan, Miss Woods, who's at the high school, a number of other people. Please stand and make you welcome.
Thank you. Senator Barnett, you're recognized for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, please direct your attention to the gallery. We have a group of individuals who are paging for our governor today. If you all would please stand and let us make you welcome to our state capitol.
Please stand.
No, sir.
Thank you. Senator Butler, Senator Kelvin Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the pastor of the day has his lovely wife, Yvonne Lewis, and his lovely daughter, Jennifer. I'd like for them to stand, and please, Senator, let's make them welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming today. Senator Kaufman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the West Gallery, I got a good friend of mine here from Rankin County today. He's a Rankin County Supervisor, Mr. Brad Calhoun. If you'll stand, and members of the Senate, if you'll welcome him to the Senate.
Senator Hickman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the West Gallery, we have with us Precious Thompson, who is one of my students at Tougaloo College, and she's here, kind of shadowed me around today. Would you please welcome her, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate?
Thank you. Any other introductions? Seeing none, we'll move to the calendar. Senator Kirby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to pass and retain item 1 on the calendar.
Item 1 is passed and retained on the calendar. Senator Kaufman, you're recognized.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's fine. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call up item number 2, Senate Bill 2097, and have the title to be read.
Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Senate Bill number 2097, Mississippi Real Estate Commission required to establish program using administrative hearing officers.
I make the usual motion.
Senator makes the usual motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Please proceed, Senator Kaufman.
I'd like to recognize Senator Sparks at this time to explain the bill.
Senator Sparks, you're recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 2097 is a bill similar to what we passed out last year. This deals with Mississippi Real Estate Commission and the disciplinary process that they have. There was a failure in several ways to have some rules and guidelines that would allow for a good due process. There was also a failure to have a burden of evidentiary proof. So what we've done in this bill, we have a couple of notice provisions. First of all, if there is an allegation against a licensee, that licensee should receive notice, but also simultaneously the responsible broker should receive notice so that everybody is aware that there is a preliminary investigation or investigation. The second issue is that we did put in a standard of proof. That standard of proof is preponderance of the evidence. That is also in the information. Once there is an investigation, there is the opportunity, and as was told us last year, most of these issues are resolved by agreed order. I could not find statutory or regulatory authority authorizing agreed orders, so we put language in here that would allow that process to continue. Our goal is not to have more hearings, but is to have due process. Then the next part is that if you do have a hearing, that you have the option of being heard before the commission or going before an independent hearing officer provided by the Attorney General's office. The MREC will have until July 1st to get that system set up. That's not a problem in the issue that AG's office already provides administrative hearing officers for 29 other agencies, boards, and commissions. Finally, if you have your hearing, whether it's in front of the commission or from the hearing officer, and you as a licensee are not happy with the result, you can appeal that. When you appeal that, there is an automatic supersedious, which simply means that your license is not automatically suspended while you're awaiting appeal. If the Real Estate Commission believes that the action is so egregious that you shouldn't be able to practice, they have a process to remove that supersedious. This is not a pilot program as it was last year. This bill passed 170 to nothing last year as it relates to final passage, and unless there are questions, I would yield if there are. If not, I would ask for adoption on the morning roll call.
One moment, please, Senator. We'll get to that. Senator Wiggins, you're recognized for what purpose?
Question.
You're here for a question, Senator.
I will yield.
Just
Senator
let's understand, this is the bill from last year that the governor vetoed, correct?
That's correct. We looked at the veto message, and one of the changes that was made is we had a standard of proof. And keep in mind, and you well understand this, having prosecuted and defended, we got to know what the standard of proof is to have any kind of due process, and there wasn't one, so we used clear and convincing. there was some discussion back and forth, and we have carried that to preponderance of the evidence this year. So that is a difference. The other thing is that the governor asked MREC, which is responsible for promulgating rules and regulations, to say, hey, you don't have a standard of proof and you do not have detailed guidance that would give due process to licensees, and he encouraged them to work together, the Mississippi Association of Realtors, to promulgate those rules. We passed this off the floor the first time on February 11th of last year. Those rules were not sent to the Secretary of State, proposed rules, until January 5th of this year. So those have not even been through the comment period or public hearing if had. So it is a needed, I guess, bill to go back and do what was asked last year. We listened to the governor's veto message. We did what we thought was a good situation, and we've brought back even, I think, a better bill this year.
To that end, but my understanding is that the governor asked them to do that. Things were asked of the two parties, and that was not done, as a matter of fact.
There were meetings.
And if I may,
Sure.
So that was not done. I think that is still the case. And the parties did not adhere to what the governor had asked them to do. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I think the governor was trying to bring the two groups together, but at the end of the day, MAR does not promulgate rules for the commission. MREC does. So it's MREC's duty, MREC's responsibility, and they have failed in 11 months to deliver those, and here we are on the cusp of session, and they filed them with the Secretary of State's office on January 5th. Now, my personal opinion, they still lack, but officially, we have no rules different than what we did when we passed this bill a year ago, because they have to go to the Secretary of State's office and OLRC.
And that's my point, is the governor vetoed it after the legislature passed it. Nobody got together and changed it because they can't get together and they're not doing it. And so we're back where we started from that. And I don't even know whose issue it was. So my question is that we're in the same place that we were last year, and the governor vetoed it. I guess it's the association, and nothing's been changed.
There are no rules that were asked for by the governor. That's correct. They've not been finalized, and at the end of the day, we communicated with the governor's office, throughout the process with this bill, and this is, the Realtors Association, this is a major concern of theirs and desire to have this bill passed.
Well, they do, but there's also other realtors who have a real problem with what's gone on with this bill. That's correct, dating back to the veto, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator Hobson, you're recognized for what purpose?
Question, Mr.
Are
President.
you for a question, Senator Sparks?
I yield.
Senator
Thank
Hobson is
you.
recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Sparks. What are the changes from last year's bill?
The changes from last year's bill, the first of which would be we were establishing a pilot program. We've taken pilot out. There was a 3-year repealer in the bill, and we're now almost a year and a half later. We also have had a year to try to work on this, so that would be number one. Number two, we changed the clear and convincing standard back to preponderance of the evidence, which was also one of the concerns that the governor's office had. And then there's language as it relates to notice provision saying that if you are going to have a preliminary investigation, basically if you're going to contact a licensee for an allegation of violation of licensure law or rules and regulations, that you must also contact their responsible broker, that they're given notice at the same time. And then if you're represented by counsel, that the investigators, the commission, should not communicate with that licensee except through their counsel unless waived in writing.
Say the last part again, please.
Well, if you're represented by counsel, if you hire legal counsel as a licensee, at that point, an investigator should not contact you directly. They should communicate through your legal counsel unless you waive that in writing.
Okay. And the commission is supportive of this bill as it's presented today?
I would not make a statement on behalf of the commission. I am not.
That we have the requirement of getting the commission.
I'm not representing the commission supports this bill. I'm not representing the commission has asked for this bill. I'm stating there was a deficiency that the commission failed to repair or to fix, and we're back with the same legislation.
And you think that these changes will make it sufficient so that we're not back here debating this bill again next year?
I believe it will be, and I think in all fairness to MREC, they're finally submitting some policies and procedures and rules to the Secretary of State's office to go to the OLRC is a great step. I hope there are no hearings needed, but we also, putting the agreed order language in there helps to cover them for an action they were taking, more likely than not, without statutory authority.
All right, thank you, Senator Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Other questions? Other questions? Seeing none, we're ready for your motion, Senator.
I would move for passage on the morning roll call, Mr. President.
Passage on the morning roll call. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Anyone wish to be, I'm sorry. Anybody? Yeah, right. If anyone wishes to be recorded as voting no. Senator Wiggins. Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none. Bill passes. Thank you very much, Senator. We move on the calendar. We'd like to take one opportunity to recognize good morning. 3 of our House members who have come to the deliberative body. Representative McGee, thank you very much. Powell and Shanks. Thank y'all for being here. Welcome. Who else? Oh, welcome, Jill. Good to see y'all. Thank you. Thank you both, all of you, for coming. We'll move to the calendar. Next on the calendar, Senator Bryan. Senator Carter, I'm sorry.
To the vote.
To the vote.
I need to be marked as present on that last bill.
Present for Carter. Present. Okay, we're ready. Senator Bryan, you're recognized. We're on the calendar.
I ask that the title be read.
Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Senate Bill number 2095, Mississippi Medical Cannabis Act, create.
I make the usual motion.
Senator makes the usual motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Please proceed, Senator Bryan.
Mr. President, first of all, I want to make clear to the people in the gallery that even if for some reason you were not personally introduced this morning, you're still welcome and we're glad to have you here.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, as you know, an initiative to provide for medical marijuana passed several months back. And I think the legislature collectively took notice that there was a large percentage of the population that supported a medical marijuana program. After the court decision, the legislature has been working, as we frequently do, not in the most expeditious manner and not in the most direct manner, but we have been moving toward drafting a piece of legislation which accomplished the goals of the initiative. And I understand that the legislation before us does accomplish the goals of what the backers of the initiative wanted to do. Not that they would have written every single word just the way it's written, but generally speaking, they're supportive of the legislation as I understand it. I would say also that during the legislative discussions, there has been a good bit of attention about how to make sure that a medical marijuana program did not morph into a recreational use program. And I think the bill that's before you contains a number of provisions to try to make sure that the marijuana that is sold in Mississippi is sold for medical purposes. I don't think any human undertaking is perfect, and I don't think this one is going to be, but it represents the best effort of a lot of people. So in short, while the legislation before us accomplishes basic goals of the referendum, it is more restrictive than the legislation which was voted on by the people. Having said that, Senator Blackwell, of course, has worked countless hours on this, bless his heart, and I would ask the chair to recognize Senator Blackwell to handle the bill.
Senator Blackwell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Well, they'll stone you when you're trying to be so good. They'll stone you just like they said they would. They'll stone you when you're walking on the street. They'll stone you when you're trying to keep your seat. They'll stone you when you're trying to make a buck. They'll stone you and then they'll say good luck. They'll stone you when you're riding in your car. They'll stone you when you're playing your guitar. But I would not feel so all alone. Everybody must get stoned. Now, some of you may recognize those lyrics from Bob Dylan's Rainy Day Woman 12, number 12 and 35. Those of the 60s generation certainly will. Excuse me, so you may, what's the significance in these lyrics in relation to this bill? It's basically to draw attention to the almost hysterical, paranoid reefer madness, chicken little belief expressed by a few skeptics that if we pass a medical cannabis bill, the streets of Mississippi will be flooded by pot-smoking zombies, crime will explode, planes will fall from the sky, and the world as we know it will simply come to an end. Some of you may share those illogical beliefs, but they're simply not true. Before I get into explanation of the bill, let me tell you a little bit historical facts about cannabis. The medical use of cannabis can be traced back to 2737 BC, when Emperor Shen Yang was prescribing cannabis tea to treat gout, rheumatism, malaria, and even poor memory. The drug's popularity spread throughout Asia and the Middle East and into Africa, and the many ancient physicians prescribed cannabis for numerous ailments, from pain relief to childbirth. In Western medicine, between 1840 and 1900, more than 100 articles citing the cannabis's therapeutic qualities were published in American and European medical journals. Cannabis was routinely prescribed by physicians and enjoyed legal status in the United States up until 1937, when U.S. Legislature passed the first federal law against marijuana, and that was the Marijuana Tax Act. This imposed a $1 per ounce tax on marijuana purchase for medical intention. Eventually, the 1970 Uniform Controlled Substance Act classified marijuana as a Schedule I drug, thus making possession of a Schedule I drug like marijuana, heroin, ecstasy, LSD, and peyote illegal. Under this act, there are 5 categories of drugs, Schedules 1 through 5. Schedule I drug has a high potential for abuse and has no accepted medical treatment. Schedule 2 has a high potential for abuse like Schedule I, but has accepted medical use for treatment. And Schedule 3, 4, and 5 are drugs in low potential for abuse and accepted for medical treatment. While cannabis is classified by the DEA as an illegal Schedule I drug, recent studies have shown that medical cannabis is effective in controlling chronic non-cancer pain, alleviating nausea and vomiting associated with chemotherapy, treating wasting syndrome associated with AIDS, and controlling muscle spasms. In 1944, the LaGuardia Committee report from the New York Academy of Medicine was the first in a long line of official bodies to question the prohibition of cannabis. The committee found that cannabis not physically addictive, not a gateway drug, and did not lead to crime. The Schaefer Commission, founded in 1972, found that cannabis was as safe as alcohol and recommended ending prohibition in favor of a public health approach. In 1971, the Nixon administration began its war on drugs. Nixon formed the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse, officially known as the Schaefer Commission, telling Schaefer, and I'm quoting here, "I want a goddamn strong and one that just tears the ass out of cannabis supporters." However, the Schaefer Commission's 1972 report stated that cannabis should be decriminalized and that prosecuting cannabis was a distraction from the fight against heroin. Nixon was so infuriated by this betrayal from Schaefer, he refused to appoint him to a federal judgeship. A scientific survey conducted in 1990 by Harvard University researchers found that 54% of oncologists with an opinion favored the controlled medical availability of marijuana, and 44% had already suggested at least once that a patient obtained marijuana illegally. And in 2008 and 2009 respectively, the American College of Physicians and the American Medical Association called for the federal government to review the evidence and consider reclassifying marijuana from a Schedule I drug. And September 6th of '88, after reviewing all available medical data, the Drug Enforcement Administration's Chief Administrative Law Judge recommended that marijuana be rescheduled and available by prescription, declaring that marijuana is one of the safest and therapeutic active substances known. Despite supporting evidence, the DEA refuses to reclassify marijuana as a Schedule II drug, which would allow physicians to prescribe cannabis to suffering patients and allow for the study of the effects of cannabis. Thus, the DEA's refusal has prompted many states to develop medical cannabis programs such as the one in front of us today. Numerous organizations have endorsed medical access to marijuana, including the American Academy of HIV Medicine, the American Bar Association, the American Civil Liberties Union, American Nurses Association, American Public Health Association, the Arthritis Research Association, the British Medical Association, the Lymphoma Foundation of America, and Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the National Association of Public Health Policy, the National Black Police Association, the National Nurses Society on Addictions, numerous state nurses associations, several state hospices, public health and medical associations, the Presbyterian Church, the Episcopal Church, the Union of Reformed Judaism, the Progressive National Baptist Convention, the Unitarian Association, United Church of Christ, and the United Methodist Church. California was the first state to approve medical cannabis in 1996. Since then, 35 other states, along with Washington, D.C., and 4 territories have allowed for medical cannabis. Today, we're hoping to become the 36th state. So let me tell you a little bit about the bill. I think everybody should have a summary. If you don't, I know there's some up here at the desk, and if you actually need a bill, we do have copies of the bill. In Section 1, we talk about the title, and the title is the Mississippi Medical Cannabis Act. In Section 2, we have a number of definitions. One of the ones I want to show you, if you can go to slide 1, Carlos. Slide 1. Slide 1 has a list of all the debilitating medical conditions. So you can see Initiative 65, what conditions were provided there. Initiative 65A, which was the legislative version, had no conditions listed. And then you can see in our Senate bill the conditions that we have listed. They're all the same as Initiative 65, with the addition of hepatitis, diabetic, peripheral neuropathy, Alzheimer's, and multiple sclerosis. Another definition that we have that's important is the MMCEUs, and that's our conversion equivalency, and that's slide 2, Carlos. So because we're allowing for cannabis to be sold in different forms, we wanted to find a way in which we could uniformly measure that 3.5 ounces that we're going to allow in a month period. A number of other states use this formula, but basically it's 3.5 grams of flour equals 1 unit, a gram of concentrate equals 1 unit, and 100 milligrams of an infused edible equals 1 unit. There's been a lot of discussion in social media and on the radio about the amount of marijuana that we're going to allow. This is a packet. Before everybody flips out, this is only hemp, and the other samples I have are only hemp. But this is 3.5 grams of flour. So basically, under our formula, what we're going to do is allow people to have one unit, which would be one of these, and we're going to allow them to have purchase 7 in a week. So it's basically one of these a day. There's been other talk that this is 11 joints. People are going to be getting 11 joints. No. I'm going to show you what a joint looks like for those that you don't know. And this will make about 3.5 joints a day. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass this around. I've got several samples I'm passing around. And I just ask everybody to keep an eye on Senator Carter and make sure I get these back unaffected. This is an ounce of flour. This is an ounce of flour. It's been said on the radio the ounce is the size of a loaf of bread. I don't know where you get your bread at, but it might be a slice, but it's not a loaf. And this is a 1.5 gram joint. Along with it is a regular cigarette, so you get an idea of the size. And so this is 1.5 grams. Most joints are around 0.75 or 1 range. So anyway, I'm going to pass these around for you guys to take a look at. In section 3, Senator Hobbs, I do have the documentation that it is only hemp. So, in section 3, we talk about the authorization to use medical cannabis. In section 4, we talk about the responsibilities of the department. And Carlos, if you could put slide 3 up. So we're giving overall management of the program to the Department of Health, and they're going to be working with the Department of Ag and the Department of Revenue to oversee this program. In section 5, we talk about various protections for the use of medical cannabis. Section 6, we're implementing a seed to sale tracking system. Carlos, if you put up slide 4. So basically from the seedling to the end user, we will be able to track the product. So we'll be able to know which plant it came from, where it was sold, and who purchased it. Section 7, we talk about various limitations. Section 8 covers discrimination being prohibited. Section 9, additional debilitating medical conditions can be added at the request of, or through the petition process to the Department of Health. Section 10, acts not required and acts not prohibited is listed. Section 11, facility restrictions. Section 12 and 13 are the issuance of registry identification cards. And on slide number 5, Carlos, you have, this is what a card looks like in Oklahoma. It'll be similar to the way our cards look like. So you'll have a picture of the patient, their date of birth, their expiration date, and then there'll be certain warnings on the back along with our CEU conversion chart. Section 14 talks about annual reports to the legislature. Section 15, the verification system. 16, notifications to the department and responses. 17, reporting requirements of dispensaries. So one of the things that we're requiring is at the end of the day that the dispensaries have to record all their sales in the prescription monitoring program, that similar to what drugstores do, pharmacies do now with narcotics. Section 18 talks about the licensing of medical cannabis establishments. And I'm going to, Carlos, slide 6, please. A number of you probably have never seen a cultivation facility. This is all indoor grow. And so one of the things that we talk about is canopy cover. And so canopy is basically the square footage, if you would, of where the flowering plants, the mature flowering plants will be grown. And in these pictures, you can see a number of the plants, these are taken at different stages of growth. Carlos, if you would, slide 7. This is just another example of how they're growing it in these labs. Processors, slide 8. So what the processors do, on the right-hand side, you see bags. Those are bags of flour and trim. And so they'll take that and they place that in, I'm not sure which tube it is over here, A or B, but basically through heat or through chemical, they compress that and are able to extract the THC. And that's why some things you say, well, how can something be more stronger? A lot of the flowers goes up to about 30%. Well, it's through this extraction process that they increase the THC level. Dispensaries, number 10, slide number 10. So this is an example of a dispensary. Over on the right-hand side, it's a separate check-in station. In this particular case, people come in, show their ID card, it's verified before they go back into the retail area. And then the other two pictures are examples of the retail area. Section 19, we talk about local ordinances. In Section 20, requirements, prohibitions, and penalties. In Section 21, agencies to issue rules, their timeline. Section 22, we're going to have a public registry, and that'll be available for law enforcement. There'll be a 800 number as well as a website that they can go to if they have a question about somebody's validity of having a card. Section 23 covers violations and fines. In Section 24, Section 25 covers confidentiality. 26, the business expenses for the state purposes, or we list those that can be deductible. Section 27, banks to be held harmless. 28, not applicable to CBD and the Harper Grace law. Section 29, medical cannabis taxes. There'll be a 5% excise tax. And if you would, slide number 15. No, number 15. Oh, I'm sorry. As I said, there'll be a 5% excise tax, and that'll be between the cultivator and the dispensary, or the cultivator and the processor, depending on if the cultivator is selling flower directly to the dispensary. On this chart here, we'll also have our normal 7% sales tax. So you see where we stand with other states that have medical cannabis programs and their tax structure. Section 30, we talk about local government options. 31, judicial review. 32, fines and fees and tax collected. Everything goes into the general fund. Section 33 is a medical cannabis advisory committee. We're going to expire that after 2 years, so that'll sunset December 31st of 2025. Section 34 amends the IT procurement exception for the department in order to get the necessary hardware and software to manage the program at a timely basis. 35 state agencies prohibit from charging fees for services amendment. And then sections 36 and 74 are all conforming code sections which we added. As you guys know, the House has a different rule. They could kill a bill on a point of order because of reference by amendment by reference. So we went ahead and we worked with the House and brought all these code sections forward. Same thing with section 75 through 100. And those particular sections deal with the economic incentives. So we are excluding the cannabis industry from participating in any economic incentive that we might be available to other businesses. So no taxpayer money will be going to these agencies. And that's a quick explanation of the bill. I'll be happy to yield for any questions.
Questions? Questions? Senator Michelle, you're recognized. For what purpose do you seek recognition?
Question, please.
Will you yield for a question, Senator?
Yes, I will.
Senator Michelle, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Blackwell, thank you for the hundreds of hours I know you spent on this legislation. I guess you'd say I have a statement to make, but I'm going to ask it in the form of a question because I think some of the other members would like to hear this, because I received some concern about the zoning situation in the bill, and counsel for your committee has informed me that maybe some of the information that was getting out was not correct. It's my understanding that we've written language in there to prevent spot zoning. In other words, from preventing a municipality from saying the only place you can retail this product is in a certain area, and that would probably be in an industrial park or something where nobody would want to go to buy it. And the language is such that the municipalities can still, through ordinance, can dictate where it's sold. Of course, there's the opt-out provision, but one of my municipalities thought maybe it would be allowed in a C1 zoning, which could be like an office park. But it's my understanding, and is that your understanding, that the language is written now where a municipality can enact through ordinance as to where that the product could be retailed?
Yes, they just can't be more restrictive than they would be for any other industry.
Thank you. That settles my concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Michelle. Senator Hill, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Question.
Will you for a question, Senator?
Yes, I will.
Senator Hill is recognized for a question.
Thank you. One of my concerns is on line 78, where you bring forth the enhanced concealed carry statute section and the permitless carry statute, and you intermingle the marijuana law, this new marijuana law, in with the concealed carry statutes. My concern would be that potential litigation, after we've worked so hard to get these gun statutes through the years, that mingling this into this concealed carry statute would potentially open ours up for litigation from various entities after we commingle something in there that's still referenced on the federal firearm application as being a no-no. So what is going to prevent this from giving somebody the ammunition to potentially sue us because we have brought this into our concealed carry and permitless carry statutes?
That's a good question. I don't see it where we brought it into any statute, concealed carry statute. We're just saying you can't discriminate. Now, when someone goes to fill out that form, they're going to have to answer it truthfully. And there is, on the form, the feds have not changed that question if you're consuming marijuana. I'm not exactly sure how it reads, but individual, it's still up to them to how they answer that particular question. But we're not the only state. There are many other states that have this provision. I'm not aware of any of them being sued, and I don't anticipate us being sued on this, particularly on this. As you know, anybody can sue for anything.
They don't, well, we've been sued numerous times on our gun statutes before we ever decided to, put something in there that is contradictory to the federal statute. My concern is you're saying on a state level one thing, but yet you're saying the federal firearm statute is still what it is. And I would argue that it's conflicting and it's jeopardizing and potentially even may cause a state cause of action for someone who does follow, or some dealer that does follow the federal firearm statute, and yet is told that they have to sell and that they can't discriminate against someone with a medical marijuana card. So I think there's a conflict set up by bringing that out and bringing that forth into the bill. And I just thought I would mention it because I feel like that maybe it does open us up for litigation. And we've worked so many years, and just because somebody hasn't done it prior doesn't mean they won't do it now. And we have had a history of being sued over our gun laws. And I would hope that y'all would really seriously think about what this might potentially open up a can of worms for that. And I don't know that we have a remedy because we're the ones putting it in there. And just bringing forth those statutes and commingling that together, whether other states have done it or not, I just wondered if you had any concern, because I have grave concern over potentially being litigated over our enhanced concealed and permitless carry.
I don't share those concerns. I'm an enhanced carry, have an enhanced carry permit, and a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I certainly wouldn't put anything in a bill that would jeopardize those rights. And if you talk about conflict, we're already in conflict. It's federally, cannabis is illegal, and
we already are in conflict with the entire statute, but bringing us in conflict with something as serious as our ability to possess arms and enjoy our enhanced concealed and permitless carry is something that I think is very serious and very dangerous. But I appreciate your answer that you're not concerned about it. But I've been here a long time and I've seen a lot of lawsuits and seen a lot of injunctions, and our council has had to hire us attorneys before for litigation that we're involved in other areas. But I'm concerned about it, and I wanted to get your take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Senator Turner, you're recognized for what purpose?
Question.
Will you yield for a question, Senator?
Yes, sir.
Senator Turner, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is the registry, and I think it's mentioned in section 15.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also mentioned during your explanation the ability that law enforcement would have to access. Would it be the registry?
Yes, ma'am. Basically, it's to access, if somebody were to get stopped and they're in possession and they're legally in possession under this statute, they're going to have a card. And so what law enforcement or anybody would want to be able to do is to call and make sure, or check to make sure that the card's valid and that they can, in fact, possess what they have in possession.
So my question is, what information would be disclosed if there's a call to verify this registration?
To my knowledge, the name, the date of birth, the ID number on the card, and if they're a valid card holder.
But not the diagnosis that the person has received?
No, ma'am. All that's confidential.
And I think I have one more question about did you mention taxes?
Yeah,
how this will be taxed?
I mentioned taxes?
Yes.
5% excise tax, and that will occur between the cultivator and the processor, or the cultivator and the dispensary, depending on the product sold, and then the regular 7% sales tax.
And so that would be at the point of sale for the patient?
That'd be at the point of sale, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator Turner. Senator Simmons, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Question, Mr.
Will
President.
you for a question, Senator Blackwell?
Yes, I will.
Senator Simmons will recognize for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Chairman Blackwell, for yielding. And also thank you for making yourself available in drafting this legislation, and thank you for all your hard work. In your presentation, you stated that Mississippians have made it clear that they really want a medical marijuana program. And you know my concern about if this bill becomes law, what, if any, consideration have you given to all of those cardholders who now have been declared to have a medical condition? What consideration have you given to their prior arrest and or conviction if they in fact had one before this became law?
Right. And you and I have briefly talked about this. One, as far as any expungement, I think we have they'd have to go through the current process. I think it'd be real hard to say. I think everybody would be saying, oh yeah, I had a medical reason, but then you have to go back. Did they go see a doctor? Did they get a diagnosis? What's the proof of that doctor visit? If in some time in the future that Mississippi decides to go to a recreational stage, then I certainly think going back and taking a look at expungement and taking a look at whatever our new allowable amount is, possession amount is, and if, let's say 2 ounces, just for discussion, and somebody was arrested and they had 2 ounces or less, then my personal feeling is that their record ought to be expunged and cleared up. But under this particular bill, I don't see that occurring. So and I hope that answers your question.
Well, Chairman Blackwell, I'm not talking about recreational now. And I don't due respect, recreational is not before us.
That's right.
I'm only talking about those Mississippians, if this bill becomes law, why should they continue to be burdened with a prior arrest and or conviction for something that is now legal? Well, I'm only talking about those Mississippians.
Right. Well, first of all, to under this bill to be legal, you're going to have a card. Mm-hmm. You're going to have gone to a physician or other provider, depending upon your age, and have them certify or make a recommendation. Well, none of that occurred when this person got caught with their marijuana. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how we can go back in time and clear those folks, because everybody's going to say, oh yeah, it was for medical purposes.
Okay.
You know, there's just no proof for that.
And thank you so much for yielding, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, I have a minute at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Senator. We have it up here. Other questions? Senator Jordan, for what purpose you seek recognition?
I have a question.
For you for a question, Senator Blackwell.
Yes, sir.
Senator Jordan, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, a lot of work is involved on page, looking at that booklet you have here. But do you have a summary available up there with you now?
Yes, sir. I think.
I have a question about the summary.
All right. Oh, do I have a copy? Yes.
Yes, sir. Maybe you can answer this. I'm looking down under. I have a copy. I just wanted to ask a question about a section of it. Under practitioners, the physician, certified nurse practitioner, physical assistants, or optometrist. And the second one is by public place, a church or any area of which the general public is invited, or which the general public is permitted. Give me an explanation of what you mean there.
Well, that could be a ballpark, a stadium or something along that lines where it's open to the public, or it might be privately owned, but it's open to the public.
Which means what in terms of?
Which means you can't smoke there.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what was bothering me there. It doesn't say that specifically that you can't smoke it there, but you got them listed there, and I didn't understand exactly what that implied. These are areas that it cannot be smoked.
That's correct.
And who's going to see that it's not smoked there?
Well, I don't know that we have, certainly law enforcement, if they're out, they see somebody, they're certainly within their rights to inquire if they've got a card or to detain them and investigate.
So law enforcement have to come there and request they display their card. Law enforcement drive on by, so you got them smoking it everywhere. And that, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm sure in some areas they don't have cards, they won't be getting cards, but they're still going to smoke. I mean, the drug is still illegal and still available and through the black market. And we're not going to be able to, this bill really doesn't address that other than hoping that it will drive down some of the black market use.
Yes, and some of the uses of it, I know it indicates that it's helpful in many diseases that a person may have.
Yes, sir.
But I'm worried about it being out there and what we got out there now, the consequences that it could cause. But since you say this section would be guarded by law enforcement, and law enforcement having difficulty now controlling what we have out there at the present time, would you agree?
Yes, sir. They got their hands full.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator Jordan. Senator Hill, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Have an amendment at the proper time.
Please proceed with your amendment. I think we have others up here. Senator McDaniel, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Question, Mr. President.
Senator, will you yield for a question?
Yes, I will.
Senator McDaniel, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, I guess my question deals first of all with my concern over that excise tax. I was listening out of my office when you first started your presentation, and it was very compelling. And it appears that there is a scientific basis for a medical use of marijuana.
There is.
What other medicines do we apply an excise tax to?
Aspirin, just everything you get across the counter.
What are those excise taxes?
On those, I don't think there are any.
Okay.
Excise taxes, as you know, are typically, I guess, applied to what we'd call a sin tax.
Right.
And I'm not saying that the use of cannabis is a sin, but it is illegal federally.
Yeah.
So sort of in keeping with that thought process, we felt the excise tax would be appropriate. We tried to keep it low and reasonable with the other states.
I think you kind of anticipated my next question. They usually aren't noted as sin taxes.
Yes, sir.
In this particular instance, I think most Mississippians would agree that this isn't a sin to use marijuana for medicinal purposes, and that just concerns me. Secondly, the revenue that's created by this. I mean, naturally, the excise tax is always passed off to the end consumer. And so if an individual is sick or not well, they have cancer perhaps, why would we want to raise the cost of their medicine? It seems to me that in a state like ours, as impoverished as we are, we would want to make it easier for them to get medicine, not more difficult.
Sure. I think this is at a minimal, and don't see it as being overly burdensome. Now, when you take a look at cost of a product, of course, there's a lot of things that go into it. The taxes, your operations, your expenses of your employees and things of that nature. So there's a lot that drives that, and I just don't see the 5% affecting that. And somewhere probably in the not too distant future, the feds are going to remove this from the Schedule 1, and when it drops to Schedule 2, I think you'll see a move for us to eliminate that tax.
Okay, I'd like to see that if possible. Naturally, it's certainly one thing for recreational use, but to tax a medicine seems a bit problematic to me. Secondly, have there been any estimates as to how much revenue these taxes will raise?
No, sir, I don't have that.
Okay.
We do anticipate that, and this comes from the Initiative 65 projections, that in our first year, about 24 to 25,000 people may qualify for a card.
Okay. And I think my other concern is, just so I'm clear here, there's a lot of discussions about limits. And, it seems as though this government is interjecting itself between the physician and patient relationship. I don't think that's a good precedent. I really don't. I mean, it's very rare that we would tell a doctor there's only so much of a certain medicine a doctor can prescribe. Why are we doing that in this instance?
Well, that's a real good question. I've got a number of folks, and I got a little thing here, people want true medicine, true medical. I want a true medical cannabis program, but we're going to limit which practitioners can make recommendations. We want a true medical program, but we're going to limit the diagnoses. We don't do that with anything else. We want a true medical, but we're going to limit the amount that a patient can get. We don't do that. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast with this particular bill and what we're trying to accomplish, being federally illegal, state, we're making it legal.
It's definitely a strange balance, isn't it?
It is.
On one hand, to claim that something is medicinal, yet on the other hand, treat it like it's not medicinal. I think that's a balance the state's trying to handle here. But I appreciate your work on this, and that's all the questions I've got right now. Thank you,
sir.
Thank you, Senator McDaniel. Other questions? Other questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the amendments. Senator Blackwell. Senator Blackman, you're recognized for an amendment. Yes, ma'am. Right, hers was first. Yes, Senator, we recognize you for amendment number 1. We're going in order that they were submitted. Senator Blackwell, we'll get back to yours. I think we have 3 so far. Plus yours would be 4. Senator, you're recognized.
You want to keep all that there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I'll be following you.
Okay, and you probably will. Thank you, Mr. President. Did we put the first one, the one related to indoor grow first? Outdoor? Thank you. May I proceed, Mr. President?
Please, Senator.
Thank you. What this amendment does is basically put back intact what Initiative 65, the 74-point-some% of the people of the state of Mississippi voted for, and this is to allow for outdoor growing for cultivation and harvesting. Mississippi is an agricultural economy. According to the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce, it's the #1 industry in Mississippi. We employ approximately 17.4% of the state's workforce, either directly or indirectly. Agriculture in Mississippi is $8.83 billion industry. There are approximately 34,700 farms in the state of Mississippi. Those farms are in all 82 counties of the state of Mississippi. So therefore, all of our farmers would benefit from outdoor farming of medical marijuana. The average size is comprised of about 300 acres. We grow soybeans outside, cotton outside, hay, rice, sweet potatoes, and other vegetables. We should allow our farmers the opportunity to take advantage of this new cash crop. Now, I know my chairman is going to come behind me and say that growing outside has its risk. I participated in all of the hearings that the Public Health Committee conducted on medical marijuana. I participated in the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus's hearing on medical marijuana. In fact, the emeritus, I don't know what his title is, from the University of Mississippi told us that we know that the University of Mississippi grows grows marijuana and has been doing it since the 1960s or 70s. They began the process by growing it, whatever you call the seedlings, inside, and then they transfer that to outside. So marijuana can be grown outside. There are states that grow it outside, and I would like to give farmers of the state of Mississippi an opportunity to grow medical marijuana outside. And I'll speak after.
We'll have questions first, Senator. One moment. Senator Wiggins, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Introduction out of order at the appropriate time.
Please proceed.
Thank you. In the North Gallery, we see one person that is familiar to many of us. We have Rebecca Staples, Jones County's finest. Rebecca, stand up. Let us make you welcome. Good to see you.
Senator Sojourner, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Question, Mr.
We yield
President.
for a question, Senator.
I yield.
You're recognized, Senator Sojourner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator. Real quick, so your bill changes, your amendment changes nothing else, just the ability to grow outdoors?
That is all.
Correct, okay. Do you know if it's possible to participate in a USDA farm program and grow marijuana?
No, it would not, because it's still illegal under federal law.
Okay, so if a farm currently participates in a farm program but wanted to grow marijuana, then they would be excluded from those programs, correct?
They would be excluded from any programs for marijuana. However, farms can separate their crops. I come from a father and a grandfather who farmed. We had cotton on one side, we may have soybeans somewhere else, you had sweet potatoes somewhere else, you had corn, okra, tomatoes someplace else.
Yes, you and me both, Senator Blackman. But if that farmer's name is listed on the farm program through USDA and he wanted to grow marijuana outdoors, he would be excluded from participating in those programs.
I cannot say yes or no, because I have not researched what other states have done as it relates to their farmers growing marijuana outside.
Yes, ma'am. They would be excluded. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator. Other questions? Senator Blackwell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask you to vote against the amendment, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that we tried to do through this whole process, and criticisms of people who had not read the bill but were commenting as if things were factual, we are not Oklahoma, and this bill is not Oklahoma 2.0, but one of Oklahoma's problems is their outdoor grow. They have thousands of outdoor licenses, and part of it had to do with their fee structure and just some of the things they didn't set up. But if you take a look at just the additional cost to supervise all these additional farms, not to mention the concerns about pesticides, insecticides, fungus, other contaminants, wind drift of actually seeds and stuff being grown, going over and growing in a neighbor's yard or in another area that is not licensed. So I think we've got it set up so that our growth will be indoor, it'll be controlled, and again, we'd ask you to vote no on the amendment.
Okay, Senator, we're ready for your amendment. We're ready for your motion.
To close?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President. The chairman cited Oklahoma in the committee as well, but when he began here this morning, he's told us we will become the 36th state in this nation should we pass this bill today. So therefore, if you only have one state that you can cite, and we're going to become the 36th state, then I would wager you that in all of those other states that have outdoor growing for medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, that they have been doing something right. Now, according to, I told you about the Mississippi stats. There was an article, states with the biggest agricultural industry, dated April 3rd of 2021. Our agriculture is number 24 in the country. The number of farmers we have is number 27. The net income from farming, the outdoor farmers, is number 20. According to this article, 29% of Mississippi's workforce directly or indirectly work in farming. So why would we deny almost 1/3 of our workforce the opportunity to rise? This article goes on to say, despite the devastating effects of COVID-19, Mississippi farmers generated around $7.35 billion in agricultural value in 2020. And this was up 5% from 2019. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "A dream of equality of opportunity, of privilege and property, widely distributed, a dream of a land where men will not take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few." We have 34,400 farmers in 82 counties in this state. Why would we take from them and give it to some outside corporations to benefit from this new cash cow? Mr. President, I urge adoption of this amendment, and I would like a roll call vote, and would I would ask for 6 of my colleagues if they would stand.
It's 6 to stand for roll call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Barnett, Barrett, Blackman, Blackwell.
No.
Blunt, Boyd, Branning, Bryan, Butler to 36, Butler to 38, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, England, Fillingane, Frazier, Harkins, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Horn, Jackson, Johnson, Jordan, Kirby, McCon, McDaniel, McClendon, McCann, Michelle, Moran, Norwood, Parker, Parks, Polk, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sojourner, Sparks. Suber. Tate. Thomas. Thompson. Turner Ford. Whaley. Wiggins. Williams. Younger. Barnett. Blunt. Bryan. Fillingane. Frazier. Harkins. Hobson. McDaniel. McMahon. Simmons of the 12. Whaley. Wiggins. I didn't hear you.
Skipped a bar? You didn't call her name on the second time.
Okay. 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 We'll do it.
No.
Okay.
Sojourner,
All right.
no.
Voting yes or yay? Blackman. Butler to 36, Butler to 38, Hickman, Horn, Jackson, Norwood, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Thomas, and Turner Ford. Voting no or nay? Barrett, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Branning, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, Chisholm, Delano, England, Fillingane, Hill, Johnson, Jordan, Kirby, McCon, McDaniel, McClendon, Michelle, Moran, Parker, Parks, Pope, Seymour, Sojourner, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thompson, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, and Younger.
Senator DeBar, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
To the vote?
Please proceed.
I vote no. Vote no now.
Senator Chasnow? Anyone else? Anyone else? Senator Chasnow?
For an introduction out of order.
Please proceed while we're taking the count.
In the North Gallery today, we have Heath Killebrew from Greenwood. I would like for the Senate to make him welcome.
Senator Fillingane? Good, passed. One moment, please.
I was going to ask a question earlier.
Sorry. I'll take it.
Senator Michelle, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
An introduction, please, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Members of the Senate, I'm pleased to welcome the Insurance Commissioner back here on the back row of the Senate floor. He got his formal training as being a member of the Senate, but he's now our Insurance Commissioner. Please welcome former Senator Mike Cheney to our chamber.
Welcome, Mike. We're glad you're here. You do a great job. Thank you. By the vote of 11 yeas and 35 nays, the amendment fails. We'll go to amendment number 2. Senator Blackman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this amendment does is that it provides that it shall be the policy of the state of Mississippi to pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, almost 40% of the population in the state of Mississippi is black. And that's more than any other state in the nation. But black people own less than 18% of the state's economy. And so what this amendment does is simply to say that it's going to be our policy especially in creating this new cash cow that we're going to help some of the marginalized communities.
Questions for the senator? Senator Blackman? No questions. Senator, you're recognized for response.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call a point of order.
Point of order.
I don't think the amendment is germane to the bill.
One moment, please. All the lawyers agree and it is not germane. We'll move to Senator Simmons. Amendment number 3.
How you doing, Trey?
Welcome to the Senate, Representative Lamar. Here's Trey right here. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Senator Simmons, go.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I proceed? Mr. President, am I recognized to proceed, Mr. President?
You're recognized to proceed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, like Chairman Blackwell stated during his presentation of the bill, Mississippians have made it clear that they want a medical marijuana program. In 2019, almost half of the arrests for drug possession and drug sales in the United States were for marijuana. That same year, the Mississippi Department of Corrections reported 1 out of 5 people in custody were incarcerated due to a drug offense. We need to lift the load of the current heavy expungement process off those who, if this bill becomes law, would no longer have done something in the past that would now be legal. And so I look at this as reentry. Those individuals who had a prior arrest and or conviction for possession of marijuana or a cannabis-related offense should not have to deal with that going forward if he or she meets the conditions outlined in the bill that's before you. So if you look at my amendment, it's an amendment to our current expungement statute, which is 99-1971, and the operative language starts at line 51. Under our current expungement law, if you actually have a conviction, you have to wait 5 years after the completion of all the terms and conditions of that sentence before you get an expungement. So by way of an example, if I had a conviction in 2008, I was sentenced in 2008, I don't complete the terms and conditions of my sentence until 2013. According to our current expungement law, I have to wait 5 years after 2013 before I can even petition the court for an expungement. So that means in 2018, 10 years later, is my first opportunity to petition the court to expunge my record. That's a burden on that person regarding job opportunities, regarding how he or she can support their family. But we don't want to change that. I just gave that by way of an example. We do not want to change that for all other offenses in our law. I am only asking you to consider for cannabis-related offenses. And the language is, in addition to the rights conferred in subsections 1 and 2 of this section, any person who qualifies for and obtains a medical cannabis registry identification card may petition without delay for the expungement or resentencing of a cannabis-related misdemeanor or felony conviction for which the offense is now legalized. So we are talking about someone who meets one of those medical conditions outlined by Chairman Blackwell. They've gone through all the requirements. He or she has a card, and now that it's legalized in Mississippi, if he or she had a prior arrest or prior conviction for what is now legal, we just saying he or she should be able to petition the court for expungement without waiting 5 years. And to all of my lawyer friends in here, they still will have to go through that petition process. The district attorneys will be involved. Circuit court judges will be involved. So it's still the same process. The only thing we are removing is the 5-year waiting period. And I'm asking you to remove the 5-year waiting period, not for all felonies, only for cannabis-related felonies that will now be legalized, but also the catch is they will have to have a card. So if you have a cannabis-related felony and you don't have a card, you still have to go through the same 5-year waiting period. I'm not talking about those people. I'm not talking about those people who have any other felony. We are only talking about those Mississippians who will get a card, and we have determined, based upon the law, that they have a medical condition. Those are the individuals that we are talking about, and I'm asking you to lift the burden off them as they go forward in addressing their medical condition and living their lives. So I ask you to support the amendment. I ask for a roll call, but I will yield for any question, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Fillingane, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
For a point of order, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
I don't believe this amendment is germane to this bill, so I'd make that point of order.
One moment, please. Thank you. The point of order is not well taken. Senator Jordan, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Excuse me, Mr. President, the meeting you just had indicate that is not germane?
No, we found it was germane, Senator.
It is germane?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. That's my question then. Let me be crystal clear on this, Mr. Chairman, that those who need the medical service that THC can provide, or medical marijuana can provide, those penalties of the 5 years would be deducted from those who use that medication.
I'm sorry, Senator Jordan, I don't understand the question.
My question is, I may be redundant in what you've already said, but the point is, those who need the medical marijuana service, that need the service, who have a penalty that you've indicated from the past, should not be held to that penalty, even though they need this substance for medical purposes. Is that what you're trying to get done?
Yeah, Senator Jordan, what I'm saying is, for our current expungement law, you have to wait 5 years.
That's what I'm going after.
Yes, sir. But I'm only saying for those Mississippians that would now have a card, they should no longer have to deal with something in their past for what is now legalized.
I got you. That's what I want to hear you say, and I want to get the right understanding.
Yes, sir.
So those penalties would be dropped.
Yeah.
See, that's what this amendment would do.
No, they still have to go through the process. Some will be granted, some will be denied. I'm just saying that under our current law, you would have to wait 5 years after the completion of all terms and condition of the sentence. I'm asking to remove that 5-year waiting period and allow them to petition immediately for an expungement if they have a possession, a cannabis-related offense, and they have a medical marijuana card.
Well, we're saying the same thing. The only thing I just wanted to get a little more clarification. That's what I was asking about.
Yes, sir.
Even though I may not have made myself clear, but since it's been legalized for medical purposes, those persons who have used it for whatever reason prior to it being voted in for medical purpose need that service, should not have that waiting period.
That's right.
Thank you very much. I just want clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator McDaniel, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Question, Mr. President.
You for a question, Senator?
Yes.
Senator McDaniel is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. You used the phrase cannabis-related offense, and I want to be sure we're on the same page here because what you're suggesting sounds reasonable, and you and I don't always agree politically.
Yes, sir.
So I may have missed something, but maybe not. We're not talking about intent, possession with the intent to distribute or a felony cannabis offense, are we? Or are we talking about just misdemeanor possession?
We're talking about misdemeanor possession, but some possession is in fact a felony under our current law.
Okay.
30 to about 250 grams could be
Right.
treated as a misdemeanor felony. So some would have possessed a felony amount. But the key here, Senator McDaniel, is you are now a patient. If this becomes law, you are now a patient and you meet one of those medical conditions. You've seen the physician.
Right.
You have a card. You're in the registry. And as opposed to allowing a person to have to wait that 5 years, they should at the very least get a chance procedurally to petition right away. It may not be granted because the DA and or the judge will go through the same process.
Right, now that part makes sense to me. I guess what I'm trying to understand is the amount of possession, because even a person who's allowed to have a medical marijuana card, they're still limited as to the amount they can possess in a day. What you would suggest is that an offense years ago that exceeds that limit would still be subject to expungement. Is that correct?
It is now in our current law.
Okay, well, yes, but basically you're cutting the time period.
That's true.
Okay. I guess my concern is if you were leaving it under the limit they can possess if we pass this law, and if your bill goes to that point, and only that point, I think that's workable. If you're above it, then the argument that somehow what was once illegal has now been made legal, that's not technically correct, is it?
I will certainly accept amendment to this amendment if that's where you want to go. But the intent is now that it's now legalized for that patient to have to deal with the 5-year waiting period. Because the point is, I believe they were self-medicating. They could have very well been self-medicating. And now it's law in Mississippi. Should they still have to deal with that criminal record?
Right, I'm super sensitive to that argument. I really am. I think you're onto something there. The key, if somebody has a misdemeanor possession years ago, and now we've passed a law basically saying that possession, if you have a card, is perfectly acceptable, you're saying they shouldn't have to live with that burden. That makes sense to me. I just want to be sure we're not going over the limit that would be acceptable if we pass this law, because that's a whole different ballgame.
According to this, thank you so much. Sam said, you are exactly right, Senator. The language says legalized under this, so it will be below the amount. The operative language is 55 and 56, which is legalized under this bill.
Gotcha.
Yes, that's exactly right.
All right, so just to sum it up so I'm clear, an offense of possession, misdemeanor offense, that is the same amount we're presently about to legalize for medical purposes, that or lower,
yes,
is the only amount of marijuana you're talking about here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Now, Senator McDaniel, a judge can still deny it, or a DA can still object to it, and a circuit court will make a ruling. We are only talking about not waiting that 5-year period.
That makes sense, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Parker, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Question, Mr. President.
Do you yield for a question, Senator?
Yes.
Senator Parker is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to understand this just like Senator McDaniel, and I guess my question on this is, for this process to move forward, someone today would have to get a card for a condition that they have right now. But what I don't understand in getting the card, are they having to prove that at the time that they were imprisoned or whatever the sentencing was, that they had the same condition at that time? And my point on this is that there are people who right now could be diagnosed with Alzheimer's or cancer or whatever, all of the listed things that we have in the bill. But 10 years ago, you know, they may or may not have had those conditions. And I think what I'm trying to get at here is that we're making some very broad assumptions in the way I read your amendment that says that because they're using or in need of the product, as we are probably going to pass today, that they needed that product for that same reason 10 years ago. And I would say that it probably in the vast majority of the situations that I can think of, that may not be the case. So am I misunderstanding your amendment, or could you clarify?
Senator Parker, that's a good question, and that's a good concern. All of that will be done through the process. So what happens is a person will file a petition for expungement, and they set forth the reasons why he or she wants a petition or wants an expungement. It goes to the district attorney's office. The district attorney office maintains a database of all of the people who actually been prosecuted in that particular jurisdiction. They get a chance to respond to that petition. The circuit court judge will set a hearing. So in that petition, I will submit to you that if a person had a medical condition that was in 2018, and now we passed this in 2022, and if they had to get convicted in 2020, and they meet all the terms and conditions in that first year of 2020, they will have to wait a current law until 2025 before they can even file the petition. What I'm saying, if this becomes law in 2022, they should be able to file a petition immediately. And I believe that person will assert in his or her petition, I had a medical condition in 2018, and attached to that petition, here is proof that I had that medical condition. Now,
so I guess we get...
Now also to that petition, here's my medical card, here's my cannabis, my medical marijuana card.
But also, I'll go further than that, you know, the fact that you even had the condition at whatever time period it is, does not necessarily mean too that you needed this treatment at the time. And so I'm just wonder, you know, and again, one good thing about what we're doing today is that, and there's been mention in this chamber today, that whatever we pass today is going to probably need some tweaking in the future, and it's going to need some attention. And this is one of those points that, yeah, I'd like to work with you on and get it right. But in the amendment as I see here, I think it's very broad, and I think it could open up some concerns perhaps for the chairman in the work that he's put into it. So my suggestion would be that we give this more attention and maybe bring this back as an amendment in the future when we have a better understanding of it. But thank you for your amendment.
Thank you, Senator Parker. Senator Butler, what purpose you seek recognition?
Question, Mr. President.
For a question?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Butler, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, all right, just kind of following up with McDaniel and Parker. So what you're trying to do is once, I guess, they have been charged and the 5-year waiting period comes in, and in that time frame, if the law is passed, then that person would have an opportunity to petition the courts to get that expunged based on getting his medical card, the doctors approve, you know what I mean? In other words, he has certain steps that he has to go through to even get to that point. Is that correct?
That's correct, Senator Butler. And keep in mind, we are saying he or she will have an opportunity to get that petition for expungement considered immediately. We don't know what's going to happen because it's still up to the objection from the DA. It's still up to a circuit court judge or a municipal court judge or a justice court judge if it's in a misdemeanor. But we just saying that the waiting period, there should be no waiting period for something that is now legalized in Mississippi. For those patients, only the patients, not everybody in Mississippi, only those Mississippians who are now patients under this law.
Again, this is misdemeanor offenses. This will be misdemeanor offenses as far as the amount of marijuana that they had.
It's for the exact same amount that we are legalizing for Mississippians to have on a medical.
Right now, okay, it'd be the exact same, okay, all right, thank you.
Or lower.
Or lower,
Yes.
that's right, thank you.
Senator Blackwell. Senator Blackwell, you're recognized to respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think under other circumstances, I think the amendment might be a good bill to maybe bring up in corrections, but I don't think it's appropriate to add to this bill. Senator Parker did a good job of asking some of the questions that I was going to ask, but you almost have a situation where a person who had been arrested or received a citation in the past is now going to self-diagnose that if he qualifies today, that he had that condition 5 years ago or whatever time in the past when he was arrested. And as Senator Parker brought up, that person might have had a condition, but would they have qualified under the guise of this program to receive a medical cannabis card? I think it's just too much ambiguity in it. I like the idea though, and I'd be happy to work with you as well and maybe draft a separate bill either this session or amend something, but I think I agree with the direction you're going. Unfortunately, people of color, going back historically with Nixon, there were two things that were affecting his I guess, campaign or his leadership back then. That was civil rights, and it was the hippies with the Vietnam War. And that's in part of why the Schaefer Report and coming down so hard on this war on drugs that they could arrest the leaders of this on the civil rights side, and they could arrest the hippies on the anti-Vietnam side. They'd get, a lot of his headaches would go away. So it's been a biased use of a law, I think. So I'd be happy to work with you. But with all that said, I ask you to vote no on the amendment.
Okay, we're ready for your motion, Senator.
May I briefly close, Mr. President?
You may.
Yeah. Senators, I'm simply asking you all to support the amendment for those eligible Mississippians. I'm asking you all not to penalize them or burden them with what may happen in their past with an outdated offense, regarding an outdated offense. So I'm only asking you to consider for what is now legal for that group of Mississippians, that group of Mississippians who will now have a medical marijuana card and who meet all of those, one of those conditions for which to get a medical marijuana card. If one of those Mississippians had an offense prior to this bill becoming law, then they should have an opportunity to get their records clean or cleared without delay. So I urge you to support this amendment and ask for a roll call, Mr. President.
Roll call. We need 6. We have 1. Mr. Clerk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Senator Moran, are you standing? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have more than 6. Please call the roll.
Barrett. Blackman. Blackwell.
No.
Blunt. Boyd. Branning. Bryan. Butler to 36. Butler to 38. Carter. Kaufman. Chazanall. Chisholm. DeBar. Delano. England. Fillingame. Frazier. Harkins. Hickman. Hill. Hobson. Horn. Jackson. Johnson. Jordan. Kirby. McCon. McDaniel. McClendon. McMahon. Michelle. Moran. Norwood. Parker. Parks. Polk. Seymour. Simmons of the 12th. Simmons of the 13th. Sojourner. Sparks. Suber. Tate. Thomas. Thompson. Turner Ford. Whaley. Wiggins. Williams. Younger. Barrett. Bryan. Harkins. Horn. McDaniel. McClendon. Sojourner. Voting yes or yay. Barnett, Blackman, Blunt, Butler to 36, Butler to 38, Frazier, Hickman, Horn, Jackson, Jordan, Norwood, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Thomas, and Turner Ford. Voting no or nay. Blackwell, Boyd, Branning, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, England, Fillingame, Hill, Hobson, Johnson, Kirby, McCon, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Parker, Parks, Polk, Seymour, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thompson, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, and Younger.
Senator Barnett, you can approach well. You'll be next. Thank you. Senator England, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Introduction out of order, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends of the Senate, I'd ask you to please help me in welcoming in our West Gallery, we have my good friend, Alderman from Moss Point, Mississippi, Mr. Wayne Lenup. Thank you.
Senator Kaufman, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Introduction out of order.
Please proceed.
It's an honor to have with us today in the gallery retired Rankin County Judge Mr. Kent McDaniel. If he'll please stand and the Senate welcome him.
Here he is. Senator Fillingame.
For an introduction out of order, Mr.
Please
President.
proceed.
Thank you. In the South Gallery, we have with us today, visiting from William Carey University College of Osteopathic Medicine, the Dean, Dr. Halo Sabaro, Dr. Michaela Merritt, Dr. Liz Smith-Trigg, and Mr. Dick Vogel. If y'all stand, we will love to welcome you.
Thank you. Welcome. By a vote of 15 yeas, 32 no, the amendment fails. Senator Barnett, you're recognized. Yes, for the next amendment, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to offer an amendment by amending lines 224 and 2224 and lines 2287 and changing the word from 60 days to 30 days in lieu of thereof, Mr. President, and that's my amendment.
Questions on the amendment? Questions? Senator Blackman, you're recognized to respond.
Thank you, Mr.
I see she hit her light here. Senator Turner Ford, did you have a question?
I do, Mr. President.
Were you yield for a question, Senator? Senator Barnett?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Please proceed, Senator Turner, on with your question.
Thank you. I could not scroll to that line. Could you just kind of briefly tell us what the
Yes,
effect of
ma'am.
that
Yes,
amendment
ma'am.
is, please?
I'm sorry. Starting on lines 2224 and 2287 is similar, except for it starts with the municipalities, and it said that such election shall be held and conducted on a date fixed by the order of the governing authorities of the municipalities, which date shall not be more than 60 days from the date of filing the petition.
Yeah. Senator, yes, proceed. I'm sorry, microphone's off. Here we go. There we go.
Thank you. And so that provision relates to the opt-out, opt-in.
This speaks directly to those municipalities or those counties who choose to opt out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator. Other questions? Other questions? Senator, you're recognized. Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask you again to vote no on this amendment. We carefully tried to look at all the time frames. And as you go through the bill, you'll notice there's a timing involved, and I think 60 days is an appropriate amount for a municipality or county to get prepared for an election. So again, I'd ask you to vote no on the amendment.
You may speak to close. I'm sorry, Senator, to close.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Blackwell, I know that you have done some extensive work, put in a lot of time in trying to get this done. But I'm asking this body to remember the 74% of those people in Mississippi who voted overwhelmingly for this particular piece of legislation, or for this to happen. And I'm just asking right now, and Senator Blackwell, I know that you want to get it to the House and to the governor as fast as possible. But I'm asking us, in us being in a hurry, let's not run over the wheel of the people of Mississippi. Let's let them be heard. And all I'm asking is that we are saying that if a city or a county decides to opt out, then we're saying that we're going to give them 60 days, or we're going to wait 60 days before 74% of the people in Mississippi has an opportunity to cast a vote again. Let's not continue to hold them hostage and make them wait some additional time because we're in a hurry to get something to the governor. They voted, their voices should be heard, not just once, but as often as they decide to be heard in the state of Mississippi. And all I'm asking is that we shorten this process from 60 days to 30 days. The bill also speaks that those who wants to get into this arena in Mississippi will only have until the end of the year, then we open it up to everybody. So why not give our people in Mississippi a really fair chance to get in at all levels? And again, I ask that we not run this through so fast that we run over the will of the people in Mississippi. And I ask that you support this amendment. Thank you.
We're ready for the motion, Senator, to adopt the amendment.
I would like to ask for a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. We need 6.
I need 6.
I have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6. Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Barnett. Aye. Barrett. Blackman. Blackwell. Blunt. Boyd. Branning. Bryan. Butler to 36. Butler to 38. Carter. Kaufman. Chazanall. Chisholm. DeBar. Delano. England. Fillingame. Frazier. Harkins. Hill. Hickman. Hobson. Horn. Jackson. Johnson. Jordan. Kirby. McCon. McDaniel. McLendon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Norwood, Parker, Parks, Pope, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sojourner, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thomas, Thompson, Turner Ford, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger, Blunt, Bryan, Harkins, Sojourner, Whaley. Voting yes or yea, Barnett, Blackman, Butler to 36, Butler to 38, Frazier, Hickman, Horn, Jackson, Jordan, Norwood, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Thomas, and Turner Ford. Voting no or nay, Barrett, Blackwell, Boyd, Branning, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, England, Fillingane, Hill, Hobson, Johnson, Kirby, McCon, McDaniel, McLendon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Parker, Parks, Pope, Seymour, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thompson, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, and Younger.
Senator Hill, you're recognized to come to the well. We'll announce the thing. Just one moment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
One moment, please, ma'am.
Is that what you got?
Just about ready, Senator. Just one second.
No, 14 yay. Yeah, 14 nay, 36, yeah. Nay, 36 nay.
Vote of 14 nays, 14 yeas, 34 nays. The amendment fails. Senator, you're recognized. Amendment number 5.
Thank you. My amendment is in no way an insult to anyone who has worked on the bill that's been before us. I just feel like this is a deliberative body, and alternatives should be presented to the body. Have many people come to me and say that they felt like that there were other ways that we could do this, that the state could regulate better, get our arms around, to try to start with something that we can get our arms around, and then, you know, potentially see how that goes and expand more in the future if we see it's needed. So I'm not going to go line by line in the interest of time, but I'm going to basically explain to you the differences in my strike all than what has been in Senate 95 before you. The first thing, in one way that they're similar, my bill allows all these debilitating conditions that you can find in pretty much any other bill in any other state. I looked at Minnesota's, I looked at Utah's, I looked at Alabama's, I looked at Louisiana's. So I have an extensive list of debilitating conditions, and I also have a clause in there that a doctor, if he feels like that there's another condition not listed that the patient could benefit from, that the doctor could give the letter to the patient for whatever debilitating condition that he believes he can help them with. So there you have very liberal conditions that a doctor could certify someone for. Would have to be a bona fide doctor-patient relationship, and it would start with doctors rather than other healthcare practitioners, and the doctors would have to have specific training in cannabis related dosages and illnesses. And there are places in the country that are already training doctors to give them extra expertise. If a doctor were wanting to participate, they would just have to contact the health department and get the certification and get the training from the health department. One major difference in my bill is my bill only allows pharmaceutical grade products, an extensive list, from pills to lotions to liquids to suppositories to metered dose inhalers, to nebulizers, patches, oils, creams, pretty much any delivery method that you could think of, except it does not allow combustible cannabis, because in my 56 years, I have never seen anyone call combustible smoking medicine. I feel like that the delivery methods through metered dose inhalers and nebulizers can give the same effect without the detrimental effects that we see from combustible smoking that we may pay for on down the line with higher cost in Medicaid, Medicare, and insurance from the potential problems that young people that start early may have with their lungs as they go on. My bill does not have an excise tax built in. My bill only has a sales tax upon final sale. My bill does not allow a 21-year-old with 8 hours training to dispense. Even in these bills, minors can get these products. My bill requires a pharmacist to be dispensed the material, and the Board of Pharmacy would license 10 specialty pharmacies to start with across the state, and a licensed pharmacist would be there to dispense it. There's been a lot of talk that a pharmacist can't legally dispense, that they would lose their license. That is not true. That's just been a myth that's been propagated. 9 other states that I can find require pharmacists to be involved in the dispensing, and that would be New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Arkansas, Utah, West Virginia. So it's not breaking ground to say that a licensed pharmacist would be involved in the program. And the Board of Pharmacy, the pharmacists in the state would actually like to participate. They tell me they feel they've been shut out of the process, and they are not afraid of this. They would like to be a part of it. They would like to be part of the program to dispense this medicine. And if we're going to call it medicine, there's such a thing as a prescription monitoring program that pharmacists check for drug interactions before they dispense medicine. My bill would require an integrated system where the prescribing doctor, the health department, and the pharmacy would all use the same database to coordinate the dosages and keep track of how much medicine that patient has gotten. My bill does not cap how much a doctor can give a patient. My bill says that the doctor, along with the health department, should confer and set those limits and allow those formularies to be placed on the website of the health department so that the prescribing physicians would know what products are available that they might be able to prescribe their patients. So they're not just giving them a card and letting them go in and shop in a dispensary like they would in a quick stop up to the legal limit. They actually have a roadmap for what they should take, and that is in consideration with the medicines and the conditions that they already have, just like you would do any other prescription medicine. If a doctor feels like a patient needs more than a certain amount, I believe it's 75 milligrams, that person would be able to get that if they're terminal, but they would have to forfeit their license. So if a person's terminal, a doctor can basically give them as much as they think they need, but over a certain amount they would not be able to drive anymore. I don't think anybody cares how much medicine a terminal patient gets if it relieves their symptoms. So we would have 10 specialty pharmacies licensed. They would collect the fee, would be a $5,000 application fee to the pharmacy board. And if they're approved, the license fee would be $25,000. Another thing that my bill does, it allows our public universities to have first right of refusal to be a manufacturer for our cannabis products that would be dispensed by the pharmacies in the state. We have Alcorn, we have Mississippi State, we have Ole Miss, we have Delta State, and I believe there is some interest at Alcorn and at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is already pros at this, and I believe that they could get the program up and running pretty much faster than anybody else. And what my proposal would allow is for whatever those universities make above their operating expenses, and they would have to provide a report to the legislature and to the health department, that they could use that to offset their costs, reduce tuition. You know, they would have some broad leeway with how they could spend that money in reducing their operating costs and helping their students, and they wouldn't be back to us asking it for as much money every year to operate their institutions. So those are the main differences between what my bill is proposing and what the bill before you. My bill would limit the manufacturers in the beginning to 4 licenses strategically placed across the state. Universities would have first right of refusal. They could either do it alone or in conjunction with another university. If the universities decline, then there would be an RFP to go out through the health department, and the health department would look at the backgrounds and the capabilities of those applying for a manufacturer's license. They would do background checks. Those people would have to be citizens of the United States. They would have to present their Social Security cards. So we would not have an influx of non-citizen owners in the state of Mississippi as Oklahoma has had. And I know that there's a 35% threshold for Mississippi people to be that percentage of owners initially, but it goes away after the rest of this year. So my bill would say, if you're going to be a marijuana operator in the state of Mississippi, you're going to be a United States citizen, and you're going to have a background check, and you're going to have a valid Social Security number, and you are going to give background checks to your employees, and they can't be under 21 years of old, and they can't have a long criminal record. So it would not bring an influx of HB1 visas into the state like they have in Oklahoma and other states, where they're having a huge problem with people sleeping all over the rural counties to try to run these huge operations. They would have to use E-Verify for their employees. It's basically taken from states that are doing this and doing it the right way and doing it in what is a true medical fashion, and not saying that smoking and candies and gummies and things that are marketed to children are medicine. Medicine is a dosage and a regimen. And a doctor can set that roadmap out, and a licensed pharmacist can make sure that that patient is on that regimen recommended by that doctor, rather than walking into a dispensary and buying X number of products and even going back and self-medicating children. Many times the people that need this are the sickest people, and they're on a lot of different medicines. And so checking the prescription monitoring program and entering into that is a safety measure, and I think it's just plain common sense that if you're going to dispense a drug and call it a drug, and it's a mind-altering drug, you know, you can get DUI other on the road if you're under the influence. My bill would require special packaging, child-proof packaging for the products. They would have to be out of the reach of a driver when they're on the highway, because we have to consider protecting, you know, folks on the road just like we do with open container laws and things like that. So just some built-in safeguards for that. The list would remain confidential unless law enforcement had probable cause Okay, we have a Constitution that talks about probable cause. So unless there was probable cause, there would be no access to that list. It also says that state employees and their immediate family members, and the way the Ethics Commission has defined immediate family members is the money has to go into the same household. So this would prevent a windfall for state employees who may, be looking to get into the business, because when I came here, I felt like my job was to make the best policy for the citizens of Mississippi, not make the best policy that I could find a way to make money off of. And so other states have put these provisions in here, and I think that if it's working for some of these other states and it's working like a medicinal program, then maybe Mississippi ought to give that a look. It also requires the grows to be indoors. The fee for the manufacturer is a $100,000 fee for each manufacturer, a $5,000 application fee, which is typically lower than some of those that I found out there for other states. The pharmacy fee is $5,000 for the application and $25,000 for the license. If it's awarded, the pharmacies would be placed strategically across the state so that would give people access. It also allows municipalities and counties to have the final say as to whether they would like to have a manufacturer, distribution center, or a dispensary in their area. We always talk about home rule, so we either want home rule or we don't. We can't have it both ways. The Mississippi Association of School Boards and the Mississippi Association of School Superintendents and the Mississippi Association of School Administrators is extremely concerned about Senate Bill 2095. They look much more favorable to the bill that I'm offering here, that is a true medicinal bill and requires pharmaceutical grade products to be given to those patients, requires testing by third-party lab. The health department or the board of pharmacy can go in and do random testing to keep us from having any contaminated products. They can test the THC levels. A minor would not be able to get a THC product with over 3% THC under my bill, and that was taken from Alabama's law. Any proceeds above and beyond what it would cost the state to run the program would be back into scholarships for our students, as far as MTAG, MESG, and rural physician scholars. So I think, not growing the government and trying to utilize the people that we already have in place in the universities and utilizing the health department and the board of pharmacy to work together to license this makes perfect sense. And I think it's a program that could absolutely work. And it would also help law enforcement right now, since it still is a federally illegal substance, to easily distinguish what is medical and what has got Mississippi's mark on it from some of the illegal substances that they may run across in their daily lives. It would also allow caregivers, as in the other bills. And like I said, it would allow a lot of access to the patients. The entities could not be more than 1,500 feet from a church, school, or a daycare, would not allow the use in public places or on public transportation. And another thing, I voted for the bill that we had last year that allowed terminal patients to smoke, because I don't think if somebody's terminal, it really matters what the long-term effects may be to their lungs. But I think if we're going to let somebody from a teenager on up smoke and call that medicine, I just don't think it's responsible. And that's why I put in these other measures for metered dose inhalers and for nebulizers, suppositories, pretty much any other way to distribute the medicine other than combustible products and food products. I don't feel like I will get this bill, this strike all passed, but I felt compelled and convicted to offer an alternative to the body and to the state that actually is a medical program. I think that when the ballot was out there, the ballot said medical. I read the ballot, it said medical. And I think that that's why 58% of the people voted, for a medical program. 58% were for 65, and then the rest of the percentage were for 65A. So, it was actually 58% that voted for 65, and I respect that, and I want to give those people something that is truly medical, not something that's smoking and candies and brownies that's passed off as medical. I've got friends who have brain-injured children who have tried this in other places, and it seems to benefit them. Don't want to deny anybody the opportunity to get it, but I want to make sure that we're doing prudent policy, that we're checking the prescription monitoring program, and that if it's truly medicine, it's dispensed by a pharmacist in coordination with the doctor and the health department, has a seed-to-sale tracking system, and it has the best record keeping that you could ever probably find in any bill. And I think that we don't need to set our agencies up for failure, and we need to give them the funds that they need to start this program, and let's do it right. Let's start conservative, and then we can grow it if we see we're working in the direction that we are. And I would be happy to entertain questions if anybody has a question.
Any questions? Any questions? Senator Jordan, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Question, Senator Jordan?
Yes, sir. My question is...
One moment, sir. Would you yield for a question, Senator Hill?
Yes, of course.
Please proceed, Senator
Just
Jordan.
one question, be very brief. You on all pharmacists, you rather that the people who give these services have more of a medical background, why you want all pharmacists to, instead of practitioners to do it?
Well, no, the medical practitioners would give the letter to the health department for them to get the card, but they would actually have to see a pharmacist in a specialty pharmacy to actually get that medicine dispensed to them. Just like if you go in to get any other prescription, you'd have to see a pharmacist.
Okay, that was my
And it's
question.
not illegal for a pharmacist to do this. Since 2014, pharmacists have been involved in the medical marijuana programs in other states, and right now I found 8 states that employ pharmacists in the medical marijuana.
I didn't think it would be illegal because of their medical background. That's all I wanted.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Questions? Seeing none? Senator Blackwell, you're ready.
I would like to, I don't know if I can get 6, but if I could get 6, I would ask for a roll call on this.
One moment, please. Senator Blackwell gets to respond, please, ma'am. Senator Blackwell, you're recognized to respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm almost overwhelmed, don't know really how to respond to this, but if you want to kill the program, a medical cannabis program, I'd encourage you to vote for Senator Hill's amendment. Starting in May, we started having meetings about medical cannabis. I've been down here almost weekly since that time, but Chairman Bryan had hearings where 2 days of hearings where we brought people in. We have met with a whole host of agencies, groups, religious groups, advocacy groups, patient groups, law enforcement, to come up with the provisions that we have in Senate Bill 2095. It's not going to be perfect. We're trying to get it as close to perfect as we can. It will be one of the better bills throughout the nation when it's passed, and we'll have the opportunity every year to come back and tweak anything that we need to. There have been a number of references made that this is a recreational bill, and it's Oklahoma's bill. And I suggest if you think that, maybe you should take the time and actually read the bill, because you'll find that it is a medical bill. So anyway, my recommendation is for you to vote no on the amendment.
Senator Hill, you're recognized to close.
I've studied Oklahoma's laws, actually constitutional referendum, and I've looked at the proponent, the products and the things in Senate Bill 2095, and the things that are very similar that are causing Oklahoma some of the biggest problems are the fact that the licenses started out unlimited. And they've got out of hand, they can't be regulated, they can't hire enough people to regulate it. And I think as long as you have unlimited license, in the first bill that we passed, you got a wild card. You don't know how many people are going to apply for license, and you don't know how many are going to get awarded. And that's why I took the conservative position of other states who have a vertically integrated process to start with a limited number of manufacturers so that they can maintain quality control and see if they're producing enough for the demand. Oklahoma got saturated with all those unlimited licenses, and Oklahoma is now the biggest exporter of black market pot in the entire country. And that's not Angela Hill telling you. You can call the news media, you can call their Bureau of Narcotics, you can do a simple Google search, okay? What is prudent in my mind is starting conservative, and if it works and doesn't give us problems and we can expand those locations, then there's no reason not to expand those locations. But when you have so many different processors, it is nothing but a nightmare to try to hire enough people in the Department of Agriculture or whatever department is regulating it to oversee it. Okay? We as Republicans shouldn't want a tremendous growth in government. And now Oklahoma can't hire enough people to try to get around and inspect those grow sites and processors. And, you know, I'm not going to go into that, but my bill is taken from states that are working well. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, and I'm not going to let industry write my bill or write policy. And I don't care how many lobbyists are invested. I don't care how many people have made premature business decisions and have leased buildings or bought property. That's not the problem of the state of Mississippi. The problem of the state of Mississippi is to make sound policy that does the best for all of our citizens, not a handful of citizens that are heavily invested and walking the halls and trying to get what they want put into this bill. I never spoke to a lobbyist. I looked and called people in these other states that have real medical programs that are working for them and not causing them undue problems and undue cost and undue problems with law enforcement, assessors, and different things like that. So that's why I brought forth this bill. If it's medical, you don't smoke medicine. If it's medical, you have a pharmacist to dispense and check for drug interactions. You can call anything you want medicine. Doesn't make it medicine. I have no problem with people accessing medical cannabis. I think it's better to do it the right way than do it the fast way. But I also think our universities are probably better equipped to get this thing up and running than anybody else. And that's part of my concern as well. Why do we duplicate something that we already have in place? So before we take this vote, I would ask if I could get 6 for a roll call. Can I get 6?
Senators requested 6 for division. Do we have 6 for the roll call? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 6. Are you standing, Senator McDaniel, for the roll call? So we have 8. Please proceed.
Barnett. Barrett. Blackman. Blackwell.
No.
Blunt. Boyd. Branning. Bryan. Butler to 36. Butler to 38. Carter. Kaufman. Chazanall. Chisholm. DeBar. Delano. England. Fillingham. Frazier. Harkins. Hickman. Hill. Hobson. Horn. Jackson. Johnson, Jordan, Kirby, McCon, McDaniel, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Norwood, Parker, Parks, Polk, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sojourner, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thomas, Thompson, Turner Ford, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger, Barrett, Boyd, Bryan, Carter, DeBar, Harkins, McDaniel, England, McClendon, Sojourner, did you hear what McClendon said? Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thompson. Voting yes or yay, Branning, Chisholm, Hill, Seymour, and Tate. Voting no or nay, Barnett, Barrett, Blackman, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Bryan, Butler, up to 36, Butler to 38, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, DeBar, Delano, England, Fillingame, Frazier, Hickman, Hobson, Horn, Jackson, Johnson, Jordan, Kirby, McCon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Norwood, Parker, Parks, Pope, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Thomas, Thompson, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, and Younger. Voting present, McDaniel, Sojourner, and Turner Ford.
Senator McClendon, we recognize for what purpose?
To the vote.
Please proceed.
I voted yes.
Aye. Amendment fails, 6 yeas, 40 nays. Senator Blackwell, will you recognize for amendment number 6?
Thank you, Mr. President. As I mentioned earlier, when Senator Barnett made his presentation, we talked about we had a lot of dates, moved some things around. We ended up with a Scribner's error on line 588. It says 60 days, but it should have read 120 days. And so that's what we're asking to do, to correct that to 120 days.
Questions on the amendment? Questions on the amendment?
I move for adoption of the amendment.
Senator moves for adoption by use of the morning roll call. All in
No.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senator Blackman, amendment number 7. Does anyone wish to be recorded as voting no on the last one?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the amendment that I brought before you before, and we think we've made it germane. It provides that in issuing licenses to all medical cannabis establishments and any other actions taken by the department, that we're going to pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality. There are no questions? Oh.
One second. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Oh, are there any questions on the amendment? I'm sorry. Blackwell? Senator Blackwell, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask you to vote no on this as well. We do not have any limitation on any of the licenses. It's unlimited. So it's hard to put a quota on something that's unlimited. If we were limiting licenses, this amendment might have some merit, but as it stands, anybody can apply for a license. So there's no limitation. Again, I'd encourage you to vote no on the amendment.
Senator Horn, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Question.
Will you yield for a question, Senator?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Blackwell. I don't see in the language of this amendment that there's any reference to a quota. So what are you referencing?
That's my point, sir, that we have no quota. There's no limitation on licenses.
But what's a quota got to do with that?
Well, in terms of a quota, you'd have a certain percent would be allocated to maybe minorities or women, things of that nature. But there's no allocation. There's no limitation.
Well, as I read the amendment, it's not calling for an allocation or any sort of quota.
How do you allocate or give something when anybody can apply?
Well, I think as I read the amendment, what Senator Blackman is trying to do is establish a policy, but does not have any reference to quotas or set-asides or anything of that kind.
Right. Well, all I'm saying is there's no limitation. It's open to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Blackwell.
Senator Horn. Senator Hill, for what purpose do you seek recognition? You got Senator Hill, your buttons on?
Not a question on the amendment, a question on the original bill.
Okay. All right. Well, we're ready, Senator, for you to close. Senator Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stated, we comprise about 40% of the state's population and only 18% of the economy, businesses. Over the years that I've been here, the years when I was not here, what I've seen is that the policies that come out of this legislative body are policies in education that marginalize a large segment of our state. I've seen in healthcare a lot of policies that marginalize a lot of the population of this state. What I've seen in transportation, a lot of policies that marginalize a large segment of the population in this state. What I have seen in finance are a lot of policies that marginalize a substantial portion of the population of this state. I believe Senator Jordan said that we comprise 40%. But Senator Jordan, according to the University of Mississippi, the State Data Center of Mississippi, for population projections, in 2020, according to them, we were 44% of this state. In 2025, we're projected to be 44% of this state. 2030, 45%. By 2035, 47%. But yet, the policies that come out of this body do harm, do not allow for the opportunities for that population. I was looking at the FY23 budget book. We're going to have $23 billion. Approximately 45% of those dollars are federal dollars. 45%. Now, we sent up to Washington $1. We get back from Washington $3.40 because of the disparities that are in this state. Aren't y'all tired of getting that Yankee money? Y'all don't want that money coming to Mississippi from New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island. We don't want that liberal Hollywood money coming to Mississippi. We want to lift up our businesses, our people. John F. Kennedy said, a rising tide lifts all the boats. By the same token, falling tide sinks all ships. If we continue along this trajectory, you're going to have a state, you already have a state, with the haves and the have-nots. Benjamin Franklin said, the top cannot rise without the bottom. For those of us who bake, we know the cake or the pie has to rise before the top rises. So we're just trying to let everybody benefit, participate for once in the creation of a program. This state says that this is our policy. We won't have to be getting any more of those federal dollars. We can make certain that all of our people have opportunities and can spend, they will have tax dollars for us to spend, and we can start sending federal dollars to other states as opposed to being the third largest recipient of federal dollars. I ask for you to support my amendment, and I would like for 6 or more of my colleagues to stand for a roll call vote.
Need 6 for a roll call. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6. Mr. Clerk, please proceed.
Barnett, Barrett, Blackman, Blackwell,
No.
Blunt, Boyd, Branning, Bryan, Butler to 36, Butler to 38, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, England, Fillingham, Frazier, Harkins, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Horn, Jackson, Johnson, Jordan, Kirby, McCon, McDaniel, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Norwood, Parker, Parks, Polk, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sojourner, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Thomas, Thompson, Turner Ford, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger, Barrett, Bryan, Butler the 36, DeBar, Hobson,
Did you hear somebody say Harkins?
Harkins not here. Somebody might have called him, but he's not here, he's absent. Parks? No, he's in. Sparks? Voting yes or yay. Barnett, Blackman, Blunt, Butler to 36, Butler to 38, Frazier, Hickman, Horn, Jackson, Jordan, Norwood, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Thomas, and Turner Ford. Okay. Voting no or nay. Barrett, Blackwell, Boyd, Branning, Carter, Kaufman, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, England, Fillingame, Hill, Hobson, Johnson, Kirby, McCon, McDaniel, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Moran, Parker, Parks, Pope, Seymour, Sojourner, Suber, Tate, Thompson, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, and Younger. You got 15 to 34.
By a vote of 15 yeas, 34 no, the amendment fails. We'll now go to Senator Hill. For what purpose do you seek recognition?
I have a question on the bill.
Senator Blackman, will you entertain a question on the bill?
I'll yield. Yes, sir.
Please proceed, Senator, for a question on the bill.
Senator Blackwell, can you tell me why pharmacists did not wind up in your presentation of the bill?
We, I think, had several discussions about that and looked at other bills, and I'm aware of other states that have added pharmacists. But when you take a look at the overall cost, and pharmacists can still participate in our bill, but it should be more of a, instead of mandating, it's more of a business model, if you would, decision. Pharmacists, I imagine, run about $150,000 a year. You're probably going to need at least two. That cost is going to get pushed on to the patients in terms of higher fees. So we're just leaving it up to the individual business models to decide if they want to have a pharmacist. Now, you're going to say there needs to be a medical professional. Well, don't forget that these people are going to see a physician, a nurse practitioner, a DO prior to, and at some time, they're supposed to have a bona fide patient relationship. So at some time, I would imagine that practitioner is going to go over what medications are you taking? Why am I recommending this product to you? So I think that'll be addressed at that practitioner level.
You mentioned a pharmacist driving up the cost. My version didn't have an excise tax in it. I would imagine the excise tax would drive up the cost far more than the cost of a pharmacist.
I doubt it. 5% excise tax? I don't think so.
on all the marijuana that's produced, 5% amounts up to a lot of money. I didn't do Common Core math. I did regular math before they brought that garbage into the schools. Would you be surprised that the pharmacists told me that they really, truly wanted to be a part of this bill, but they felt like unless it was pharmaceutical grade products, as were put in my bill, that they felt like they would be at too much liability to be in a situation to where there were all kind of food products and non-pharmaceutical grade products. So I think there's some discrepant information out there about why pharmacists were not involved, and they feel like they were shut out because pharmacists deal in pharmaceutical grade products. They don't deal in candies and brownies and gummies. So the experience that I've had with the pharmacists were been that they would have liked to do it, but you know, these business models you're talking about, do you really think they're going to hire a pharmacist if their bottom line is profit?
I've talked to several pharmacists who are interested in having their own dispensary. So I think that you'll see some involved, but that's their decision.
Well, I think whenever we're looking at policy where we're involving giving mind-altering chemicals to kids, that maybe you disagree with me, but I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother, and I just for the life of me can't figure it out in my heart and in my mind and my scientific background why we would open up something for an 18-year-old bud tender to be able to give a product that's intended for a minor in a building where you go in and shop like you shop in a quick stop. I can't for the life of me wrap my arms around it, but I'm glad that you can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hill. Senator Sojourner, for what purpose you seek recognition?
A quick question,
Are
Mr.
you yield for a question, Senator?
I'll yield.
Senator Sojourner, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chairman Blackwell, I think I can speak for us both when I say we're ready for this issue to get over with. Real quick, I just want to make sure I'm clear on one thing. What's the role of the Department of Ag in the bill as it is currently written? I know it's changed.
Yes, they're responsible for the cultivators, for the regulation of the cultivators, processors, testers, and transportation. Well, transportation disposal, not testers.
But nothing beyond the cultivation aspect.
Well,
In
the process,
terms of
they're in terms of the regulation side in concert with the Department of Health, but the Department of Health is charged with licensing those entities.
Do we involve the Department of Agriculture in any other regulation issue as it pertains to medications in this state?
I don't know, but we use them as it relates to agricultural products.
But not medical? But not medical products?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. My one last question. I'm supportive of your issue, but I've got tremendous heartburn over this issue, in particularly for one issue, and that's the taxing component. And I want to make clear, this product will be imposed with a sales tax.
Yes.
At 7%.
Yes, ma'am.
And then on top of that, it will be imposed with an excise tax.
Well, first there's an excise tax and then the
sales tax for a total of 12.
Right.
Do we charge sales tax on any medication in this state that requires a doctor's prescription, written notification, or otherwise stated?
Not for a prescription, but you cannot, the doctor cannot prescribe this. It's a recommendation. It's an over-the-counter purchase.
But if you have to have a doctor's, I get it, we're parsing words, I understand. I just wanted to make that point, to make sure I was clear on that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator. Senator England, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
A question, Mr. President.
Will you for a question, Senator?
Yes, I will.
Senator England, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Senator Blackwell, you've done a great job on doing all of this, and I just had a few questions. First of all, the basis for a lot of this, the starting point, from what I understand, even with talking with you, was the Initiative 65 bill that we first looked at, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you've put in some time, and I understand we're going to be, this would make us the 36th state, I believe, that would have this program.
36.
Okay, and you've taken some time to look at what other states have, and we've kind of used some of that, and we've seen what not to use. Is that correct in this bill?
We have.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to make sure of that. And also, just one point of clarification, a bud tender, and I'm not sure the definition, I apologize if I'm using the wrong term, but to be in that position, to be a vendor, you have to be of the age of 21, is that correct?
That's correct. And you're going to have to be required to take 8 hours, initially 8 hours of training, and then every year 5 hours of training after that.
Okay, and that's something that you looked at extensively and made sure that we got right in this bill.
And that's similar to the other states.
Okay, thank you, Senator Blackwell.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Senator Blackman. Senator Blackman passes. Senator McMahon.
I wish to speak on the bill.
You're recognized to speak on the bill.
My friends, I had not intended to discuss this controversial subject at this particular time. However, I want you to know that I do not shun controversy. On the contrary, I will take a stand on any issue at any time, regardless of how fraught it is with controversy. You have asked me how I feel about marijuana. All right, I'll tell you how I feel about marijuana. If when you say marijuana, you mean the devil's cabbage, the poisonous smoke, the green monster that defiles innocence, dethrones reasons, destroys the home, creates misery and poverty, yea, literally takes the bread out of the mouths of little children. If you mean the corrupt weed that topples the Christian man and woman from the pinnacle of righteousness and gracious living into the bottomless pit of degradation, despair, shame, helplessness, then I am certainly against it. But if when you say marijuana, you mean the smoke of conversation, the philosophic stimulant, the flower that is consumed when good friends get together and puts a song in their heart and laughter on their lips, and the warm glow of contentment in their eyes, even if you mean holiday cheer, if you mean the drug that will bring pain relief and puts the spring of the old crippled bodied, paralyzed with stiffness, if you mean the plant which enables a person to magnify their joy, if only for a little while, life's greatest tragedies, and to forget, if only for a little while, life's greatest tragedies, sorrows, and heartaches. If you mean the potential row crop, which could pour into our treasuries untold millions of dollars, which could be used to provide for the tender care of our little children, our blind, our deaf, and our infirmed, to build highways and hospitals, schools, then I am certainly for it. This is my stand, and I will not compromise or retreat from it. This is a modern rendition, a tribute to our former colleague, Noah Soggy Sweat of North Mississippi, who gave that whiskey speech in this very building in 1954. I couldn't help myself but to have a little fun with it. I do want to share a couple of comments before we begin. When medical marijuana was on the ballot for the people, I really had very little exposure to marijuana. I didn't understand it. I've never interacted with it in any way. So I was grateful that I was on public health, that Delbert Hoseman had placed me on public health. I was grateful when this subject came up because I had a lot of opportunities to listen to the testimony from across the country, from professionals and organizations, from mothers and dads whose children are ill. And last year I voted no to this because I wanted to respect the vote of the people of I-65. And it is that same spirit that I rise to address this body today. Regardless of my own personal feelings on this matter, the people of the 6th District voted by 72% for some type of medical marijuana program. And I've done everything I can to be in sync with the will of the people on this particular matter. And I want to thank Senator Blackwell and Representative Yancey for taking my concerns. Some of the things I was concerned about did make it into the final bill, some of them didn't. But I do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to address this body and to serve the people of District 6. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Horn. For what purpose you seek recognition? Senator Horn passes. Senator Black, we're ready.
I apologize to the body. I probably started this off with the song. I didn't know it was going to be amateur hour up here. But very nice job, though, Senator Kaufman. Just kind of in closing, we've talked about a lot of things, but we really didn't talk about the people that we're doing this for. There are a lot of sick folks out there who this is going to benefit. And as I mentioned before, we're going to be tweaking this every year. I think this is a step in the right direction. And there have been a lot of people waiting a long time for us to do this. So with that, Mr. President, I request passage by the use of the morning roll call.
Chairman's request the use of the morning roll call, final passage. Anyone objects to the procedure? Anyone wish to be recorded as voting no? No. Branning. Chisholm. Hill. Tate. Johnson. Anyone else? Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I record all the others as voting aye and the bill is passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request immediate release.
Seeing no objection, immediate release is granted.
And Mr. President, if you would just give me a moment, I want to, there's a lot of work that went into this bill. I want to thank really my co-author, Representative Yancey. We've worked great together. We started working, I think, in July, but we've worked with the leadership in the House. We worked with the attorneys over in the House. And it has a lot of work, and appreciate everything that you've done, Lee. Appreciate that. And Mr. President, certainly want to thank you for your support. Chairman Bryan for everything that he did. And there's a couple of staff members we've have spent a lot of time together. Sam, I think this is about the 44th, the 45th draft of this bill, but certainly want to recognize you and thank you for your help. Leah was tremendous help, and even Nathan helped out. But one of the people early on who's not with us any longer, she's over at another agency, is Leah? It's Anna. I'm sorry.
Anna Moak.
Yeah, Anna Sparks. And Anna did a tremendous amount of work on this bill, putting charts together, doing research, and really we wouldn't have gotten it done without her assistance. So anyway, just want to make those recommendations.
Senator Blackman, for what purpose you seek recognition? Hit the light. You pass?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was waiting on him to finish.
You're ready. You're recognized.
I'm through.
For what purpose, ma'am?
A parliamentary inquiry.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, Mr. President, on yesterday, when we entertained House Bill 384, the history of actions and what's on the daily action report is showing that there was the First Amendment amendment number 1 is showing that there was a vote on it, and it shows a vote, and it shows that it was lost. And then amendment number 2 is showing lost, and it's showing no vote. But the first vote that was taken was on amendment number 2, and the only way we could have had a reconsideration was there was intervening business, and the intervening business was amendment number 2. And so after amendment number 2, then there was a motion to reconsider the vote, whereby amendment number 1 failed. And so this is not accurately reflecting the actions that were taken on yesterday. And I know we believe in transparency, and we ought to have the correct actions that have been taken properly reflected.
Thank you, Senator. I will get with staff, and we will take the correct actions, and we will report. Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been asked to ask the body if anybody wants to be a co-author. I'd welcome that.
Thank you. Senator Simmons, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Permission to be added as co-author, Mr. President.
Senator Simmons is co-author. Anyone else? Anyone else? Delano, Simmons, Jackson.
D. Simmons. 12.
Anyone else? Horn, Barnett, Butler, Simmons,
38. Both of them.
anyone else? Hickman, anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, we have a deadline as well today, as you know, up to tonight on getting your bills in. We appreciate everybody's work. Pardon me?
Present.
Senator, we will not be present tomorrow. Senator Polk, is anyone else? Senator Kirby. Senator Kirby, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, for an announcement, please.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to call a Rules Committee meeting in the Pro Tem's office today at 2:30.
Rules at 2:30. Senator Wiggins. Hold on, Senator Wiggins, one moment. We'll have your mic on.
Entry of a motion to reconsider on today's calendar. Number 2, Senate Bill 2097, please.
Join the chairman. Okay. Senator Branning, for what purpose?
An announcement, please.
Please proceed.
Appropriations Subcommittee number 11 that was originally scheduled for 2 o'clock today will be moved back to 2:30. That's 2:30 p.m. today, room 216. Senators Parks, Albert Butler, and Kelvin Butler are needed for that meeting, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Blackwell, for what purpose? That'd be McDaniel's mic, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request that my samples that I sent out get returned to us. And no, it was not the real thing.
Senator McClendon, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. President. At the end of the day, I would like the Senate to adjourn in memory, in the memory of Miss Joy Pitts, mother and spouse of dear family in Hernando, and going through a tough time now.
Thank you very much. Senator Bryan.
Mr. President, it's my understanding that Senator Harkins had been indicated he wanted to be recorded as not voting on all issues regarding this. I just want to make sure that he was recorded as not voting on final passage.
Thank you.
The other thing, Mr. President, I'm inclined to enter. I would like just a moment to discuss with Senator Blackwell the issue of immediate release before we adjourn.
We had a motion on immediate release. We'll give you just a minute. Senator Blackwell, you want to speak a minute? We've already had the motion on it. While we're doing that, Senator Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Appropriations Committee Insurance and Revenue Subcommittee meeting that was scheduled for 11:30 today will not be held this afternoon. It will be scheduled next week at a later time.
Thank you, Senator Michelle. Senator Butler, for what purpose you seek recognition?
Adjourning member, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
When the Senate adjourned today, Mr. President, I would like for the Senate to adjourn in memory of Ms. Merle McDonald, who was a teacher in the Cleveland County Public School System.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, you want to read the meetings, please, while we're finishing the discussions over here? Okay. All done? Senator Bryan. Senator Bryan?
Mr. President, I have a motion, but I want to explain why. This bill is rather lengthy. It's quite plausible there's a typo or some other error that we might need to fix. And for that reason, I enter a motion to reconsider on Senate Bill 2095 for the purpose of if there's some technical error we need to fix, we can just fix it Monday before transmitting it to the House.
Thank you, Senator. Join the chairman. All right. Senator Pope, don't get away from us. We need you now.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand in recess until 5 p.m. today, at which time the calendar... Mr. President, I move we stand in recess up to call the chair.
We'll move recess and subject call the chair. One moment.
I withdraw my motion to recess up to call the chair.
Thank you, Senator.
And then move that we stand in recess until 5 p.m. today, at which time the journal will reflect that we are adjourned until 4 p.m. January 17th, Monday.
Thank you. Move and stand in recess to 5 p.m. time, to which time the journal will reflect the Senate stands adjourned until 4 p.m. Monday. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. Thank you all. Ayes have it. Stand in recess.